The Questions Log, Week 11. Ohio investigation inconclusive. Returning to Gotham to check in with my private eye. If my math is right, the arm cast from our last misadventure should be coming off now. Just in time to break something new. Breaking and entering, for sure. Breaking the case? I can hope. But I'll settle for breaking bones, if only it means avoiding broken hearts. This is 52 Pickup. And we're back! This is 52 Pickup, a podcast about the greatest comic you've never heard of. I'm professional comic book expert Alex Jaffe.
And I'm Gita.
Hi, Gita.
I'm simply Gita. I forgot who I was for 1 second. Who heard that? Just rocks in my head for a sec. But I'm Gita. I'm always Gita. I've always been Gita, and I always will be Gita.
There's simply nothing else for you to be.
No.
I'm really excited to talk about this issue. Here we are. We're approaching the quarter-way mark into this series. I can't believe it. This is a landmark issue for many reasons. And there's no one in the world I would rather be talking about it with than a special guest I've invited onto the show for just this occasion. Analyzing 52, number 11, here with us today. Please welcome the writer of Galaxy, the Prettiest Star, Hawk Girl, the DC Book of Pride, and many other non-DC Universe-related projects that I actually care about, which should tell you how much how invested I am in this person's work as a whole. Because it takes a lot to get me to care about anything that's set outside of this particular world. That intro got away from me a little bit. Anyway, here's Jadzia Axelrod.
But I liked it. I really liked it.
Yeah. Welcome, Jadzia. So excited to have you here.
It's great to be here. I'm very excited to be here. I cannot wait to talk about this issue of 52 in general, and to also just hang out with you two. I mean, that's the main reason I'm here. 52, whatever.
I first met Jadzia on the Great Gotham Outsiders podcast, which is a show about queer perspectives on Batman and the Batman universe, where we kind of went story by story through DC's first Pride special. And the very next year, Jadzia had a story in that special herself.
What a rise. You're just...
Yeah. I did call it. I did say next year I'm going to be in it.
Hell
you
yeah.
did.
Lo and behold.
The Babe Ruth of queer DC.
I'll take it. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on this show. It was wild to reread 52 now, almost 20 years on.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like this series when I first read it when it was coming out.
Really?
Interesting.
Why is that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, it's a bummer. It's like everyone's upset. Nobody's gotten enough sleep. All eating poorly. Mm-hmm. They're angry at each other. They're constantly yelling. Like there's no fun to it. And that's the point, I guess, especially in the beginning of the series, is like the fun has died. Infinite Crisis ruined everything, and we're trying to put the pieces back together. Come on. Because like 1 year later, the fun is back. But this is like the journey to get to 1 year later where everything is fun again. And I get that. And I didn't appreciate it at the time. Now, older, wiser, closer to middle age, I get it.
Yeah, sometimes you have to drag yourself out of your own grave by your fucking fingernails.
It's just the truth.
It's definitely a series I do relate to more as an adult. It's especially Renee Montoya, who I relate to so much in this entire series. She has adult problems. She's going through adult situations.
She has the best storyline. Like I'm always going to be in the bag for Rekka, but like
sure.
He's doing some great work in 52 and like really developing Renee, and it's really fascinating to watch.
Yes, I love it.
Man, I was hard in the paint for this series as it was coming out. It was the first book to really grab me into the DC universe, as I talk about basically every week we do this show. What was the book that got you into like the concept of comics as a cohesive universe, Jadzia?
Oh, geez. That's such an interesting way to phrase that question. As a cohesive universe.
Because, before this, I would be like individually into Batman stuff or Superman stuff or Captain Marvel stuff. But like the idea of, this is a world that all these characters contribute to together. For me, that starts with 52.
Right. honestly probably the Super Friends cartoon, right?
Oh, wow.
That's where all the toys come together.
It's true.
Right.
You know? And so like I came to DC Comics already with this awareness of like all of these guys play together. I watch Super Friends. I know what this is going on. So like reading those comic books and having just that knowledge of like, yeah, they're all friends. They all get along. They're all in the same world. I think the book that really made me appreciate it, probably, I want to say Animal Man. Grant Morrison's run in there, which kind of turns the idea on its head. And sometimes you need to see like the opposite of that, of the thing you always took for granted to really appreciate it. So him wandering through like these heroes everyone's forgotten. And it's like, oh, right. This is a larger continuity, a place where everyone is quote unquote real, but some people are more real than others. And it's interesting to see those bonds and how the weaker ones disintegrate and the stronger ones keep going.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating perspective on that. Especially, I love the idea of understanding the multiverse as just like a child playing with toys. Because the multiverse really is about what if all of my guys were friends? What if all my little guys were friends?
Yes! I mean, that's how I view it. When I was writing Hawk Girl, it felt like playing with toys again.
That's wonderful.
It's just like getting these little action figures together to do their little stories and to have their little moments. Like it really...
Making them fight, making them kiss.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what the magic of 52 is for me. These are all characters that these superstar creators did not create themselves, but clearly have these deep affinities for and want to continue their stories in their own way.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see. Like, I love second bananas. Second, third bananas, third bananas, fourth bananas. Like, I love characters who never get the spotlight. And so to have a whole series about those characters who normally are outshined by other people, it is fun. And it is neat to see, like, how is Ralph Dibny doing? Not well.
Not great.
No, he could be having a better time. He could.
Could be better.
Yeah.
A wife could be aliver.
That's true.
Absolutely.
He could be more alive in the wife department.
He's one down in Wife City.
Man down in Wife City. He's got no wife anymore.
Yes. That's the title of our issue. Actually, the title of our issue is Batwoman Begins, which is a contemporary reference because the movie Batman Begins had just come out the last year.
I just felt myself turning into stone. I literally saw Tenet in theaters last night. Oh, I'm very old now.
Yeah.
I'm older than your average person.
Yeah. Let me turn my chair backward and say, kids, you might consider Batman Begins the Tenet of its time.
Batman Begins isn't even good. I will listen. I had opinions about that story.
It's the Batman of its time.
Yeah.
Okay. Batman Begins is okay.
It's okay.
I will defend it as an okay movie. The craziest argument I have ever gotten into with a friend that ended with like shouting and crying and throwing things and threats of violence was I had this friend who insisted Batman Begins was the worst movie ever made. And I insisted it was just fine. It's
literally just fine, which is what is confusing about it for me, right? Like, it's just fine, but then it also created this trend of superhero films. The people were hungry. They were so hungry and thirsty for superhero media that they took the crumbs from Christopher Nolan and they regarded it as a feast.
Well, it's interesting to look at Batman Begins, right? Because it's clearly an attempt to have it both ways, right? Like there was an argument. This is clearly the brief. I don't know. I don't have any insider knowledge onto the creation of Batman Begins. I know this is shocking to you. The brief, if you watch the movie, clearly is like, we want you to make a new Batman franchise, but if this crashes and burns, please make it so it can still work with our existing Batman franchise. Yeah. So if we need Batman Begins to be a prequel to 1989's Batman, it will still work in that way. Okay? And Nolan said, yeah, I'll do that. And it does, which it shouldn't, but he did it. And then when they brought him in to do another Batman movie, he famously said, no notes. I only do it if you give me no notes. And they said, sure. I gave you a bunch on that last one. You've earned no notes. And then made The Dark Knight, which is a great film.
Let me make you a movie about why the Patriot Act is necessary.
It's a great film that's just saying despicable things. But it is a great film.
Accurate.
Yeah.
That's an accurate that's an accurate description.
Like, I think that Heath Ledger performance, there's a reason why nobody ever forgot it. You know? It does embody one of the spirits of the Joker, I would say, as a character. One that shows up in comics and accurately reflects what I find interesting about the Joker in a lot of different ways. I think it's possibly influenced the world of comics a little too much, and people's cultural perceptions about what the Joker is and what makes the Joker good. Although I do appreciate one thing, is that Heath Ledger's Joker told jokes and was funny.
Yeah, that's the thing people forget to do with the Joker. You gotta make him funny, at least to himself.
At least he's got to be telling jokes that he likes, right? Like
exactly.
That's got to be something in there. But a lot of the times I'll read the Joker and he's not doing jokes. And I'm like, he's got to be funny. His name is the Joker.
He gets overshadowed by the psychological experiment thing that the Dark Knight really starts.
Yeah, it's just to turn him into a Reddit bro.
And he's got to laugh at his own jokes.
Yes, exactly.
There should always be ha-ha-ha's in the background of a page with the Joker.
Yes, so agreed.
That's Bill Finger shit. That's Bob Kane shit.
Yeah.
That's Jerry Robinson shit.
Yeah, we gotta pay homage to the greats, right? Over here.
Speaking of creators, I think it's time for us to talk talent on this issue.
That's true. We've gabbed enough.
Our series' primary artist, the deeply problematic Joe Bennett, is back on pencils this week, along with Todd Knock, who you might recognize, Gita, from Young Justice as co-creator of Empress and Slowbo.
Oh, yes! And I do love Empress and Slowbo as characters. Slowbo especially is very funny.
We all love Slowbo. I mean, what's not to love about Slowbo?
What if Lobo was just a little guy? What if he was just a little guy?
A little guy?
A lot more successful than the later What If Lobo Was Hot.
Yeah. We don't need that.
The problem with that is Lobo is already hot.
Yes, we don't need to make him a Bishonen. There's already people who fuck with what's going on here.
Exactly. We don't need to talk about that right now, though. On inks, we've got Jack Jadson, who we've had working with Ben before, and Marlo Elkiza, who's done inking on hundreds of issues, Superman, Catwoman, Teen Titans. He works a lot with Jeff Johns, which might explain his involvement here. But the cover is the only place we get the title drop this week. And then we skip over the first 4 days, goodbye the careful structure we saw last week, all the way to night 5. So our heroes all got 4 days off from doing nothing. What do you think they were up to during that half a week off?
Oh, they were catching up on their shows.
Yeah. Gotta watch Lost.
What? Yeah, they do have to watch Lost. Tangent, and maybe you've already read something about this if you are a subscriber to Aftermath, but I've been watching so much Attack on Titan, and it's basically exactly Lost up until the point where they start defending fascism. So
yeah, I knew that was as soon as you started Attack on Titan. I was like, well, we're getting there eventually.
It's wild the bait and switch they do. David and I have been talking a lot about how they really do just a Lost style mystery box show until what you learn is in the box, which is fascism.
Surprise.
It's like, guess what? Genocide's good. Like, that's what the story's like. It's incredible television, but also like Lost, it's just sort of like the end of it just completely overshadows what actually occurred during it that made people like it so much. And I think that 52 is a great example of how you can actually have the journey be the point. Like, part of that, if this issue is a very good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just liking the characters is the point, guys. You don't have to think about it any more than that.
Yeah, I mean, the best episode of Lost is the one where they find a van randomly and try to start it up again in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You need time to breathe with these characters. And
exactly.
We get a couple scenes like that in this issue.
Yeah, and I really like the way that we open up after this initial inciting incident, I would say, into guys hanging out.
Yeah, but first we got to get through feral Ralph Dibny.
Jadzia, you mentioned that Ralph is not really having a good time. What did you think about the opening here, where Ralph Dibny is beating up children?
Yeah, because they're wearing Superman pins upside down.
To Ralph's credit, he did not know they were children, and when he finds that out, he is horrified. He thought they were just small. So it's really Ralph beating up short people?
Yeah.
It's not great, but better than children.
Short people.
Yeah.
Have no reason to live. That's Ralph Dibny, everybody. That's what he has to say.
Yeah. He's a big Randy Newman fan.
Yeah. So we open up in the park and we've got two young people or short people, who's to say, talking about the initiation into the cult of Connor.
We know they're young people, but they're definitely short.
Yes, exactly.
We know they're young because they use the word noobs, which is fresh, cutting-edge lingo in 2006.
Yeah, if it was set now, they'd be saying Idgeball.
Who wrote the Ralph Dibny bits? I know you guys know.
That was Mark Waid.
That was Mark Waid? All right, that tracks.
Yeah, Mark Waid talks a lot in the commentary for 52 about how painful this story was to write because he loves Ralph so much, but he wouldn't trust it to anybody else. It's like, only I get to hurt him.
I mean, yeah, that is how it comes off. Genuinely, it's like, it feels like a story where someone who loves this character very much is like, you got to be tested, my friend. I'm so sorry, but I have to test you. And it's very funny, though, when you get this, like, deranged, unshaved man beating up teenagers, which is what happens. They're talking about the noob meeting, and then he's like, what are you talking about? Tell me where you guys are going. Rah! And they run away scared, obviously.
Where is he?
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
I realize that Ralph is not at his highest in this moment.
Right.
This is a low point for Ralph, but also he's a better detective than this.
Yeah. You don't need to accost random people in the park to solve crimes.
Yeah, exactly.
What were the clues that led him to accosting random people in the park is what I
Was he just hanging out?
And he saw some short people with Superman symbol buttons, and he was like, oh.
Maybe they know what happened to my wife. I better try.
All right. So he harasses these children to find out what's going on with the cult of Connor, who defaced his wife's grave in a previous issue and have brainwashed ? Cassie Sandsmark. And he gets a phone call from a storage unit that he owns in Opal City, home of Starman, and is told that there's been a burglary there.
But from then, we move on to week 11, day 6 in Gotham City, where one of the, just from here on out, the issue becomes really great because it's about my two favorite people.
Yeah, the rest of this issue is really just about, it's the Greg Rucka show.
Yeah, Grant needed a week off.
Yeah, Grant needed to commune with the cosmos this week.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing from days 1 to 4.
But right now we are at a bench where the question is lecturing Renee Montoya about the dangers of smoking. And Renee is really not happy about it.
Yeah. Blowing smoke right in his face.
She seems to be not successfully communicating to him that no, I smoke because I know it's bad for me and I want to die.
Yeah, it's awful.
So long since the question has had an audience for all of this information he's gathered.
Yes.
So excited. It's just
he's really excited to actually somebody, which is underlined by the fact that he's very clearly wearing an Atlas t-shirt in this scene, connecting him to his classic Ayn Randian objectivist roots.
So funny.
I think this is very much a Stealth Atlas Shrugged reference here.
Yeah, God, I don't ever want to hear the question talk about Ayn Rand.
Don't worry, he's not gonna. The whole thing about the question in Denny O'Neill's series is that it was beat out of him when Lady Shiva killed him and dropped his body in a river.
We love that.
And he came back a Zen Buddhist.
That should happen to pretty much all objectivists, I think.
That literally happened to me in the year 2011. That's my origin story. Yeah, Lady Shiva beat class consciousness into me. It was crazy.
Should we all be so lucky?
Yeah.
As to have Lady Shiva's beat class consciousness into us? Yes.
Yeah. There are worse ways to have it happen, yeah. So he's telling her about Jews in the gas chamber, that the same chemicals that were used to kill them were in cigarettes, which it's true. This is the start of a very personal story that isn't covered too much when people talk about 52. That Keith Giffen lost a couple family members to cancer from smoking. And that kind of gets weaved into the narrative here and there throughout the series from this point forward. We've seen a little bit of it in the past, but that kind of connection with seeing loved ones waste away from what should have been a preventable illness is something we're going to see more of as these stories continue.
It's one of the better versions of this specific narrative, I would say.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe the best, where you can feel how personal it is, but I don't feel like I'm being lectured to. I feel like I'm just seeing a reasonable outcome for a specific character's life.
Absolutely.
And this is also like a 2006, when we started moving away from tough guys smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's not really a thing anymore, but this was starting that kind of sea change movement in popular culture, seeing that. So it's interesting to see that as a conscious effort moving away.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that this dialogue was corny at the time that the thing came out. And I was also a teenager who smoked. So, so you can see how I would feel personally targeted here. But now I read it and I'm like, I would be giving the same lecture as Vicus in this specific page. Like, I'd be like, do you know exactly how many things they add to the tobacco you're smoking and how bad it is for you? Stop it, you dummy.
I want to call special attention to panel 5 on this page where they're having this cigarette conversation, because the look that comes over Renee's face as she sees who's coming up behind him is absolutely priceless.
Oh my God. So I wrote in my notes, by the way, for this issue that the way that they draw this dress actually distracted me from taking my notes for like 15 minutes. Over the shoulder.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in issue 7, we saw Jessica Rabbit, and now we're seeing Jessica Rabbit, the porn parody.
It's so crazy.
This is so wild to read because Rucka completely changed so much about Kate after 52, right? So we're not seeing like a tattooed rockabilly girl here.
Yeah.
She's like got a skin like I can't imagine Kate Kane that we know, one with this haircut, two wearing this dress, this jewelry, these heels. Like it seems out of character.
No, this is very much how Joe Bennett has been drawing women throughout this series, and underscores how much of Kate comes from his collaboration later with J.H. Williams.
Yeah.
Like the way that they draw this dress, I think a lot of comic book artists, especially male comic book artists that are prior to the 2010s, I would say, just did not really look at how they understood how tight-fitting fabrics like Lycra, etc., fit and flow on the body, but not how other fabrics that are more fluttery and free-moving, how they flow against the body. So this dress is drawn like it's literally painted on her. Like this is she's wearing like an American Apparel dress that's skin tight.
Yeah,
it's kind of ridiculous.
Drawn like it squeaks when she walks.
Yes,
absolutely. But it's wild that he draws Renee's baggy jeans really well.
Yeah.
So he clearly knows how to do fabric, just doesn't.
Yeah.
This is a choice.
You can see, like, he outlines her butt cheeks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, a dress that fits that well is not what I'm wearing to a park in the middle of a day.
You know, Vic clearly sees how flustered Renee is, and he's teasing her about it because that's their relationship at this point.
I really like their banter. I think that they are such a good odd couple, really like detective pair here. And I especially like that Vic always calls her on her bullshit because she is so good at lying to herself, even to things that we, the audience, can plainly see are true.
Right. It's just such a fun dynamic to see in action, especially when contrasted with the way Vic worked with Helena back in Rucka's previous Cry for Blood, where he tried this same routine and it just didn't work as well.
It just won't work on Helena.
She will not take notes.
But in this scene, essentially, the information that's delivered is that Kate Kane, her family does have holdings in that specific warehouse on Kane Street. Mm-hmm. And she demands to know what this case is for, but Renee won't tell her and tries to push her away. Classic Renee.
Yeah.
Classic Renee.
Kate's got her new girlfriend waiting in the car. She's a doctor. Her Jewish family would approve.
Yeah, I'm thinking about
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Oh, I'm sorry to Kate Kane. I'm sorry to that woman.
It's okay. I'm pretty sure this woman breaks up with Kate in her first Detective Comics issue. So
Yeah.
Great. So
she
she
moves
got
on
out.
to better pastures.
Excellent. I hope there's a little support group for all of Kate's exes where they can maybe hook up with each other and bond over their shared trauma.
I love that Kate is a bad girlfriend. That's one of my favorite things about her.
It's delightful. Yes.
No, and you can see it all over here where she's unwilling. One, it's like if an ex calls you after 10 years, you do not have to pick up. Like, I know that. But one time, it was a girl I went on like 2 dates with. Messaged me on Facebook and just said, "Can I be a bitch for a second?" And I didn't respond. You don't have to. You can move on, but you are like a toxic person that's obsessed with Renee. So here you are.
I do want to say Dan DiDio left some commentary on this issue in the collected edition that I thought was pretty funny, where he said that he first heard the phrase lipstick lesbian in the New York Times when they reviewed this issue. And he had to get someone from the office to explain to him what that was.
Jesus Christ. Wow. That's really funny.
And that kind of tells you what DC was doing right now.
It also really tells you a lot about the New York Times and their treatment of queer issues.
Yeah.
Well, this was such a big deal. I think it's so easy to forget how huge this was when it happened in 2006, right? Like, so, like, not only was DC doing a queer character, but doing, one connected to Batman, and they were giving her this huge push. She had an Alex Ross designed costume, like all of this stuff. It was a huge, huge deal. And like New York Times and other publications were picking it up and talking about it. Like this was gigantic. Like there had been lesbian characters before, but this was like one that was not only a main character, but like taking over Detective Comics. Batman of all people.
Yeah.
So like this was so huge.
It was a big deal.
You look at the sort of media, the media synergy that goes on now with the DC Extended Universe whenever they have things come out, and you see the same sort of pattern and blueprint here. So for them to try it out on a new flagship lesbian character, it is kind of remarkable. Like you think about that and you're like, wow, that's the same treatment that every new sort of DC Extended Universe media property gets now, is the one that our humble little Kane got.
Yeah.
And it's wild because it was such a big deal that she was gay. And then you open 52 and it's like, that does not look like a lesbian to me. Not even a lipstick lesbian. In those heels? No.
The only thing that flags it for me is the sunglasses, because those are wildly butch for no reason.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah, but it feels very, the dress is just nuts to me. I have so many things to say about certain kinds of comic book artists and not being able to like just pick up a fucking fashion magazine and look at it. You don't have to read any of the words, just look at the pictures. Come on.
Do some work.
And the open-toed pumps.
No.
Yeah.
Like, what is that business?
A closed-toed pump I could see as a power move, but I can just imagine her sinking into the grass.
Right. Something strappy at the very least. Like, this is such a weird combination of clothing items.
She is, you can see how you get to rockabilly wife from here, though. Like, the bright red hair and wearing a dress that looks like it's from a 1950s magazine does lend itself easily into the stylistically, actually, she's a rockabilly girl.
I mean, that could have been like a note, right? Because the way it's like just above the knee, like I do believe that perhaps Greca provided a 50s style dress to the artist and was like, make it like this. And he's like, oh, sure. Yeah. It's like the dress I was going to draw, only the skirt is longer. I got it.
If I can try to defend transphobe and anti-Semite Joe Bennett, what I will say...
Yeah, go on record and do that.
What I will say is that this question Renee story is very much from the beginning drawing from these neo-noir tropes. And clearly when putting Kate into this story, he has the idea of the femme fatale figure in mind. So he's drawing her to meet that specific role in the story, regardless of what her character is actually supposed to be. So I can see where he's coming from, at least.
Yeah, that's a stretch. I'm sorry. Not in a world where Lauren Bacall exists.
That's fair. Okay. You know?
Okay. I'll put down the jingled.
I see the logic.
Only in this company can I make that joke.
But it's like the same problem that just like when you see a comic book like a writer writing wildly a horrible black slang, where it's like, just talk to a black person just one time.
Yeah.
Just do it one time. Talk to a lesbian one time about what this character be wearing in this instance. And it wouldn't be that dress in that way. In the middle of the day, that's what's really, like, she walks up in the least conspicuous dress in the world while they're doing, trying to be inconspicuous doing detective things. Think for a second.
Yeah.
Joe Bennett, for $1, name a woman. So
he can't do it.
He can't do it.
Can't do it. So we get to my favorite scene in this issue, the parking garage. This deep throat ass locale where Vic's taking Renee back to his van so he can rendezvous with her on the research he's been doing on his end and kind of cross-reference it with the stuff that Kate's been picking up from that Renee's been picking up from Kate. Vic razzes her about how it went.
This storyline is Rucka is intent on shying away from any cool superhero thing ever, and that includes locations. Like they're meeting in parks and parking garages, and like it's not even like a cool dive bar. It's a park. It's where you put a car. You know, it's like all of this stuff that's aggressively mundane.
Yeah.
You can tell how much Rucka loved Denny and Dennis Cowan's The Question series, because that was very much the same of presenting those kind of dingy locations throughout Hub City. It's not dirty in a cool way. It's dirty in a kind of gross and off-putting way.
It's not Gotham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotham is where Hub City people go on vacation.
Right. Yeah. Gothamites look down on Hub City as garbage, so that's tracks.
Exactly. And Hub City has to go fair.
Like, it's not that gothicness. It's much more, for lack of a better term, street level, which is not an expression I like, but this is very clearly that.
Vic calls Renee out on her bullshit, that she's still harboring the guilt from the last arcs of Gotham Central for her partner dying and not being able to avenge him. And being trapped in a broken system, all of that cop shit.
I know what your problem is. It's what happened to the last time the writer is writing you now was writing you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick summary for the audience.
Everything that happened in between, don't worry about it. It's what the writer did last. I get that. As a writer, I respect that.
The timeline checks out. Gotham Central was canceled by the advent of Infinite Crisis, and this happens right after Infinite Crisis.
Yeah. It's written with the assumption that people don't know what the fuck happened to Renee Montoya, which is like a pretty fair assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of this storyline is laden with subtext from both The Question and Gotham Central. So one of the most common questions I get from listeners to this show is what they should read after 52. And I told them to read The Question, I told them to read Gotham Central, and then I told them to read 52 again. And they'll get a whole new read out of it.
Yeah.
Which is what I did. So we see Vic, he's taking these boxes out of his van, and they're all like banker's boxes labeled with these various references to the DC universe and other things. We have a big tobacco box, calling back to their conversation just a few pages ago, a Hub City box, Checkmate, Gotham PD, Luthor. We have a box labeled Ohio 2004. What do you think that's a reference to?
Oh, when my brother went to the college that I would eventually also go to in Oberlin. Oh. That's what I think it's a reference to.
This is one of those things where it's actually a real world reference as opposed to a comic book reference. Back during the mid-2000s, there was a very popular conspiracy theory that George Bush had stolen the election in Ohio. So this is Vic's kind of nod to that.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
God, I mean, everyone always talks about what went down in Florida, but there were also problems in Ohio. I did just literally remember as soon as you jogged my memory.
Yeah, it was Florida in 2000. It was Ohio in 2004.
Yeah, well, no comment.
Yeah, if this comic came out in 2001, that box would be labeled Hanging Chads.
Yeah. So, question, Jaffe. The box that says Luthor also says 986. So is that a reference to something, or is this just one of probably 1,000 boxes that the question has about Luther, and this is merely the 986th?
I looked into this. I could not find an answer, but my guess is that it's a reference to post-crisis Luthor, which started in 1986. That's the best thing I can give you. That's a guess.
Oh, and then that makes sense.
The idea of like Luthor as this scheming businessman starts with John Byrne in 86.
That makes sense. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I like that. If that's not the reason, it should be.
Exactly.
I agree completely.
Yeah, please mail me my no prize. I'll give you my address off mic. So yeah, Vic catches the audience up on all the issues that Renee is carrying with her and assures her that she did the right thing and she needs to forgive herself. But of course she's not going to.
Yeah, that's the whole point of her life, is never forgiving herself.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy her a drink, but I want her to have the satisfaction of having one.
The great thing about Renee is that she holds everyone to an impossibly high standard, including herself. And
that's true.
And that is why she's also a horrible girlfriend. It's great.
She's a reductress article, basically. like breaking, local woman can't meet high standards she sets for everyone else.
So speaking of writers returning to their favorite pet storylines, Vic reveals the things that he's learned about Intergang since I last spoke to it. It's being run right now by a woman named Whisper Adair, who Rucka previously introduced in a 2000 run on Detective Comics as a protege of Ra's al Ghul and League of Assassins. Of course, at this point in time, Ra's al Ghul is dead, thanks to another storyline Rucka wrote, Death in the Maidens. Since then, she's apparently gone on to running Intergang. So that's who's doing all this weird Jack Kirby experimental gun running and monster gene splicing around the city. They're gonna break in and check it out. And we see the shadow of a black cape and a Batman cowl hanging over the parking garage, looking down on them. Is he back? Has Batman returned? I skipped over the cover of this issue, so I don't know.
It's a fun fake out, though.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Like we know that it's not Batman, but also it's fun.
If you're a complete nerd who's going to be disappointed by it not being Batman, you deserve this bait and switch.
Maybe Batman and Batwoman are in this issue. Maybe it's a team up. Imagine being starved for Batman content. I can't imagine being that person.
Well, the big problem with DC Comics is there's not enough Batman.
Where am I going to find Batman in this question story? Oh, man.
They don't have a subtitle that transitions it to night 7, but this is the nighttime. Night is occurring at this moment now.
Yeah. They break into a building that's very reminiscent of the building that the question breaks into in the Justice League Unlimited episode, Fearful Symmetry, which is where I first met Vic Sage myself.
He said, "Hello, Alex. I'm going to be your new hyperfixation." And
exactly.
you said, "Yippee!"
What I love about this scene is that Renee and the question have changed t-shirts to match.
Yes.
They're wearing different shirts.
I do love that.
I don't know. There's no reason for it.
Vic can't go breaking and entering in his Atlas Shrugged shirt. He has his breaking and entering shirt.
But he can't put on a question suit for reasons.
No.
And so instead, he just puts on a black t-shirt. And Renee is like, "Oh, is that what we're doing? Well, I want to look like a team." So she puts on a black t-shirt.
We're just going to both put on our slutty black t-shirts today.
Yeah. Let's go, girls.
How much of a menace do you think Vic Sage would be on TikTok? He would be.
I would love to watch Vic's TikTok.
We think that that's one of Renee's t-shirts that Vic is wearing.
It fits him.
Quick sidebar, which DC characters would have the best TikToks?
Oh my God.
Oh.
Tim Drake would have a really good one, but it would be really annoying that it was so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it's like, it's so high effort.
Oliver Queen would have the worst.
Yes.
100%. The most how do you do, fellow kids.
He would be constantly talking about his thick wife. She would be so mad about it.
And doing like archery tricks.
Yeah.
That were poorly edited.
He would be like that horny pastry guy that's always like humping the bread dough that he's doing. Except we have way less swag, and that guy's already so swagless, so imagine.
Of course, the good version of Oliver Queen's channel was Mr. Miracle's channel.
Yes.
He's got stunts. He's got a big curvy wife.
Yep.
He's got great editing skills.
Yep.
I think Mr. Miracle's channel is the one to watch. Scott Free's got it on lock.
Right, because Oberon does it.
Oberon does it, of course. He's the social media
But it's
manager.
about Mr. Miracle. And so it's like all really nicely edited.
Yeah, they've started a hashtag for him, Short King husband.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's all about. I believe that Bruce Wayne's corporate social media would be hilarious to me, and I would probably spend a lot of time stalking it thinking, what are you doing? Why are you in Macau today? What the fuck? Like,
I have a theory about Bruce Wayne's social media. It's always one post. Like it's a new system, and it's one post. Like he has one post on Instagram, and it's him on a yacht with like the thumbs up. He has one TikTok, which is also him on a yacht, like giving thumbs up.
It's the same image.
He's like, I'm on my yacht. This is great. And like millions of followers, but it's always just one post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually really good.
And there's some teenager who's tracking his plane, and it's like, you weren't there at this point. I know where you were. Where are you hiding, Bruce Wayne?
Oh, that would be so funny. Him, Elon Musk, and Taylor Swift would be the three people having their trains tracked publicly on Twitter. And he'd be the only one not trying to sue that teenager.
Wouldn't engage at all. Not on his radar.
So once again, we have wild monsters attacking, just as we did when they broke into that warehouse on Kane Street. But this time we see very much that they're these kind of humanimal animorph type creatures.
Humanimal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, was that an Andrew Hussie reference in our podcast?
Why not? I read Problem Sleuth.
Anyway, we're not going to derail. But they do look like humanimals.
I really like this like unreality element of the humanimals.
Mm-hmm.
Just how we've been so mundane up until now. Like even the Dibney stuff, which is about to get weirder, was very mundane. And so like the whole issue has been very normal and mundane and people talking. And then all of a sudden we get werewolves and snake women. Great.
Yeah, and we get our second femme fatale in one issue. Wearing that slinky butt dress. This one's black, though.
But it works for her.
I'm going to be doing crimes. If I'm going to be doing crimes, I want to be wearing 100% of an outfit and not an outfit that has strategically placed holes. That's just me.
If you're a snake woman...
No, in Whisper's case, it's a power move, I think.
You need a slinky dress if you're a snake woman. This is just, you're gonna go for that.
Fine. I admit it, I'm not made of stone. Krusty the Clown voice, they backed up a dump truck full of money to my backyard. I'm not made of stone. I get it. I'm disappointed in Renee for being freaked out by the slitted tongue, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Girl, by 2024, you'll be reading porn that's completely unimaginable. So,
look, she's from a deeply Catholic family. She's still unlearning things.
Absolutely. Yeah. She hasn't discovered the Yuri monster fucker hentai. Like, it's okay. She'll get there.
So what's the deal with the tattoo on Whisper Adair's back that's mainly obscured by her hair? Is there ever a reason?
Is it just a big cobra?
I believe that's a League of Assassins thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm not familiar with Whisper Adair.
Whisper Adair, can we just take a second to say, if you're going to name yourself anything, Whisper Adair is really great.
I will say she did at one point have an alternate name, which she no longer uses. At one point, she went by Snake Fatale.
No, Whisper Adair.
Exactly. It's one of those things where the civilian name is so much better than the supervillain name.
It's a spirit character is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, which is perfect for a Question story because the Question draws so much of his aesthetic from the Spirit. Denny O'Neil's relaunch of the Question was basically him retelling the Spirit's origin, right down to him dying and being reborn. So yeah, there's a lot of Will Eisner here.
I think 52 sings when they do the detective stuff, especially. Everyone knows.
Oh yeah.
Jaffe already knows. Jadzia, I'm sure you already know just based on our conversation so far. I think that this storyline is the best one of the whole comic. It's what I'm always thinking about when people ask me what I like about 52.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it just is. The detective part of Detective Comics really sings here in a way that it often does not sing in other books that purport to have detective work in them.
Yeah, I mean it's the best. It's like the closest second is all the super scientists in a bunker bits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fun,
Yeah.
but they're not anywhere near as satisfying as the Renee stuff. And it speaks to, like, the Renee stuff is something that, like, continued on in a really strong way. And, like, the other stuff has kind of, like, been rewritten or taken out as it's gone on.
Well, the other stuff did continue in their own ways. The Booster Gold story took off in Jeff Johns' Booster Run, which was actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Steel story launched this Steelworks arc that ran for about 12 issues as its own ongoing series.
Yeah, I mean, there was absolutely attempts to build on what was said here. I'm not saying that, but it's like the stuff that has resonance is almost entirely the Renee stuff.
I mean, there's also the fact that the Black Adam stuff became a movie last year.
I mean, that is absolutely the most far-reaching effect of 52, completely breaking The Rock's brain.
Yeah. It melted America's #1 movie star into a guy who had to go crawling back to wrestling.
Yeah, God, it's very funny to see him returning to a wrestling persona and talking about wrestling nonsense again.
Yeah.
Because he was such a bankable movie star until he made it his personal life's mission to be Black Adam in a movie that no one watched.
God. Yeah. But I would say most positive impact, certainly the Renee Montoya story, at least up until 2011, at which point there was some kind of mandate that she wasn't allowed to appear in comics for some reason.
That was weird.
It was weird. For like 5 years, you could not find a comic with Renee Montoya in it anywhere. I don't know why.
She's like one of the best comic book characters ever
really
existed,
great.
Personally. Yeah. In this scene, though, what we're stalling on is the thing that was so significant about this issue and why this was written about in the New York Times, et cetera, which is a batarang flies into the fracas as they are all fighting each other. And Renee first thinks she knows exactly who it is, but then there's a big splash page that reveals that it's someone else entirely. It is a Batwoman. Hot damn.
Yeah. Showing off her boobs and her butt at the same time to let you know for sure this ain't no Batman.
And with high heels, she's kicking a wolf man in the face while pushing a hyena person's head into some sort of wood, unclear what kind. And there's a gorilla in the background. This could not be any more DC Comics 2006.
Yeah, this is it, baby.
I love how the gorilla isn't even being affected by this, but he's still sort of like in the background, like, come on.
God damn. It's like she just ripped one and he can smell it.
Yeah, that's exactly what he looks like. She's using her bat farts in order to.
Yeah, exactly.
You see. It's a tactical fart, clearly.
Yeah.
She looks great in the outfit. Let's just talk about the Batwoman costume for a little bit and why it immediately landed with, I think, a lot of queer readers, female readers, and just readers in general. It looks so good. It looks so much better than so many other attempts to create a female Batman.
Alex Ross. Gotta give the credit where it's due.
Yeah.
Alex Ross is great when he does simple stuff. And like this is so boiled down, right? It's a black unitard with a red bat, red gloves, red boots, black cape with a red interior. Like it's very basic, but it's basic in that way that evokes classic superhero costumes and not in a way that's like, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, she doesn't look like a ripoff. She doesn't look like a side character. She looks like a main character in an oeuvre that is Bat-related, not like Batman's little sidekick.
You know the story behind this design, right?
I do not.
The story behind this design is that this was originally drawn for a pitch by Alex Ross to bring Barbara Gordon back as Batgirl in the 90s. He had had enough of Oracle. I want my original Batgirl back. So I'm going to propose this story where she takes a dip in a Lazarus pit and gets her legs back and becomes Batwoman. And this is the costume I want for her. And editor at the time, Denny O'Neil, said, no, absolutely not. Oracle is too important a character to sacrifice. I will not regress like that. And Denny was absolutely on the right side of history.
Denny O'Neil, you're such a real one.
Denny was a real one.
So when the time came to introduce a new Batwoman, Alex was like, hey, I got this design laying around. What if we did another redhead? And they're like, okay. And that's the story of this Batwoman design. It's
fantastic. He really got it right. Like, every single aspect of it is great. I love the little bat silhouette on the heels, on the boots. Yeah. I love that. That is such a cute little detail. And one that you can sort of maneuver around so you don't have to draw every time, but conveniently for artists. But one thing I've always said about comic book superhero in costumes is that it's really a shame that a lot of the designers of these costumes don't understand that a skin-tight latex unitard is already really sexy. Like, you don't have to make this any sexier. It is form-fitting. Her entire body is visible. Like, she looks amazing. You don't have to have cutouts. You don't have to have her legs visible. She doesn't have to wear a skirt. She looks fantastic.
I love how the cowl is a visual callback to the original Batwoman costume from the Silver Age, where we had Kathy Kane introduced as a love interest to Batman, who he aggressively rejected.
Yeah, and rendering it in all black immediately makes it more mature and not as an immediate of a visual callback, but you still see it there. And you see how it actually saw, I mean, running around with loose hair, I would not do that personally if I were a superhero. But you can see it keeps her hair out of her face. So it feels like it's both useful and fashionable.
A lot of Batwoman is striking an impression.
Yeah, it's good. We all love it.
And it's also like the black and red is not a combo the other Bat characters are using.
Yeah.
Until the New 52 when Nightwing took it. But it's it's like of the Bat people, but also separate of them.
Yeah, it gives her own color motif so that you can use little red bats to indicate when she's speaking, for instance.
So she beats everybody up and saves Vic and Renee's ass, tells them police are en route. I'd appreciate it if you kept me out.
Oh, wait, you forgot the best line in the whole book.
Oh, right. We got to see. Oh, right.
Which is Renee's narration saying, that's not Batgirl, that's a Batwoman.
Hot damn.
Hot damn. Yeah. And there's a callback to issue 7 on the next page where they're fighting the Monster Men together. Batwoman knocks Kate to the floor and she observes, it's a good hit. Somewhere along the line, someone taught her how to throw a punch, which is exactly what she thought when she gets into a fist fight with Kate 4 issues ago.
I love that she can clock her ex-girlfriend not from everything else about her, but from being hit by her.
We just saw that afternoon.
Oh, yeah, that tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it?
Oh, boy. That relationship was a nightmare.
Yeah.
A nightmare. They were so wrong for each
other.
other.
She knows exactly who Batwoman is at this point. Surprise, it's the only other redhead she knows.
There's only so many lesbians in Gotham City, and she can tell Batwoman is gay immediately. Adar's going off. So she's like, wait, who could this be? I know the 3 other lesbians in Gotham. It's 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah. Process of elimination. I know who you are. I have a very good friend who's a redhead, beautiful red hair. And the line I always think when redheads appear in fiction now is, sometimes it's annoying being a redhead because you're always somebody's metaphor. And it applies here.
Yeah. Hair like fire, etc., etc.
etc., yeah.
She flies out the window, and Vic takes a moment to go, I think she likes you. And that's like one of my favorite bits in the entire series.
Yeah. I love Vic here. Wingman Vic is so funny.
Yeah.
Good.
We get one more scene on night 7, back to the dour Ralph Dibny story. Checking out his storage unit, Nopal City. The door is busted. You got the Cult of Connor resurrection symbol graffitied on it. He opens it up, and we see a bunch of boxes in there of all the different outfits that Sue wore in the Silver Age. It was kind of a running thing that she was kind of a clothes horse, that she was always buying trendy outfits while they traveled the world together. So we have mementos of that all over here. We have a box of birthday mystery souvenirs. Every year there would be a special story where Sue would set up an elaborate mystery for Ralph to solve as a birthday gift to him. And those were always kind of the highlights of the elongated man run in the back issues of Detective Comics at the time. You know, we see a lot of evidence here of a person who clearly actually cared about the Silver Age Ralph Dibny stories. Something only Mark Waid would put in there.
The best part, though, is the boxes that say hats and then more hats.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love those boxes.
Yeah. I love the box that says, Ralph, throw this stuff away, Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a realistically drawn look at a storage, like, what would you do if your spouse died and you didn't want to see that stuff every day, but
Of course.
you also couldn't get rid of it? It's this.
Box of his old costumes, old photographs, and it just seems like everything is there except one outfit has been stolen. Where we see that a wicker woman on the next page has been dressed up like Sue Dibny with the stolen wedding ring on her finger, on its finger, and they're preparing it for some kind of ritual.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Is Sue going to come back? Is she going to come back the right way? What could happen in this wacky and wild world of comics? Literally anything. You'll have to keep buying issues to find out.
Next week on 52. Up. Yeah.
Right.
This is one of the better cliffhanger endings that they've had so far, I think.
Yeah, it really does the work of drawing you into this Ralph story, which is generally too much of a bummer to be invested in. But the best news of this issue is that this is the final part of the history of the DCU backup.
I'm so ready.
We do not have to deal with it ever again after this week.
My first note in my notes is just, here we fucking go.
Yeah. Dan Jurgens at it again. Jadzia, if you had to summarize the entirety of the history of the DCU in 40 pages, would you be able to do it?
I mean, yes. I don't know if I would be any more successful than Jurgens is.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
I could do it. It would just... See, the problem is, right, is like, this isn't a cohesive universe until very recently.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
so to pretend like it is a monumental undertaking.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It's the editorializing around the summary of the information that is actually the really difficult task. And you can see how Jurgens tried so hard, but it's not entirely successful.
No, it's an impossible mission.
Yeah.
1935 to 1985 are covered by the first 2 chapters, and then the rest is
Right.
everything else.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
Yeah.
Oh my God. This last little summary of Infinite Crisis, I followed along with Infinite Crisis and I was buying issues as it came out, but I was a teenager at the time. So I really liked it when it was going on because it directly involved characters that I really liked. But then nothing good happened to those characters that I really liked. And so the whole thing is soured in my memory. I know I'm being unfair to it because I also miss Connor. But I also am aware that it's probably not as bad as the fanboy part of my brain wants to believe it is.
It's not good.
I will say it's very funny that we're summarizing a thing that literally happened 10 weeks ago.
That is really funny. But yeah, Jadzia, it's not good. It's not as bad as I think it is, but it's also not good.
It's not good. Like, I think Final Crisis gets a bad rap, and it's pretty good, but like Infinite Crisis is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'll say Superman Beyond might be, which is the event inside Final Crisis, might be my favorite Grant Morrison stuff.
Yeah.
Great.
No, it's really, really great. I think it fulfills the brief that Infinite Crisis was trying to fulfill.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, and it's got those gems, like you said, Jaffe, that like there is no gem in Infinite Crisis.
Yeah.
Like there is not something you can pull out and be like, well, this part was good. It was all kind of like,
Well, I would argue that the gems of Infinite Crisis were the tie-ins building up Infinite Crisis.
Yes.
Your villains united.
Yeah, okay.
Right, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And 52, obviously, coming after.
Yeah, of
Infinite
course.
Crisis. Like, you can't have that without it.
But here you look at the meat and bones of what Infinite Crisis actually was, and I can see that they're describing a series of events that I tried to forget about as soon as I possibly could after reading Infinite Crisis. It's just like...
Well, it also shows the weakness of it, right? Because, like, the most important characters, 2 Supermen from alternate Earths.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't care about those guys.
It's like when Dragon Ball Fighter Z unleashes their roster of 8 Gokus.
Yeah! It's exactly like that. Gosh, it's like right now in Jujutsu Kaisen, and things that have changed by the time you listen to this, but right now, the characters have been fighting Sukuna for like a year. And it's like, I can't pay attention to this anymore.
Yeah, Jadzia, this is when I regret to inform you that this is technically a podcast for a video game website. So we have to acknowledge a certain amount of video games per episode,
Fair
like
enough.
a Canadian show having to do Canadian content.
Well, you know, like, it's just like, with Jujutsu Kaisen, it's the same kind of flaws as American comic book writing in a lot of ways, which makes sense because it's clearly very influenced by American comics. It's basically just X-Men if we're being real. But it has the same problems where they've built up a supervillain that is so powerful that he has to spend a lot of time showing the other characters how out of their depth they are. But then that just becomes really unpleasant to read after a while.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh, all my favorites just died again.
That's
Great.
about the point I fell off of My Hero Academia, too.
Yes. Yeah, Hero Aka has the same exact problem. I'm so sorry for calling it Hero Aka, but here I am.
That's fine.
I am the person I am.
I wouldn't change it.
I was buying edibles yesterday, and somebody with a My Hero Academia wraparound on his car drove by.
Oh, hell yeah.
Salute
Wow.
to you. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's a fan right there.
I saw Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter wrap around on a car the other day, and I'm like, what is your life?
I know.
That-
I wish I could flag them down and interview them. I want to know.
Yeah.
Like, how much did that cost?
Who are
Do
you?
you regret it? Who are you?
Like, why are you decking out your car to represent a character who is canonically a child predator? What are you doing?
Would love that. It's like, I really just wanted to ask them, do you still read My Hero Academia or not? Like, everyone else I know has fallen off, so just let me know.
Viz by your car?
Yeah, like, it was Deku on the side of their car. And it was from early on in the series, too, so I knew that if they had that wrap on their car, it must have been from when the series was still good. So I was just curious.
It could be worse. It could have been a horny one. I'm glad it wasn't a horny one.
I've seen too many of those.
Yeah. So we get this recap of Infinite Crisis that I won't bother recapping. The only thing that is worth noting is this page at the very end where we ostensibly reveal what all this is building up to. That Donna Troy is this aberration in the intended course of the timeline of the universe. She was supposed to die in Infinite Crisis, but Jade died instead, Alan Scott's daughter. So now has this like mission that's important to continuity somehow. And the Monitor from Crisis on Infinite Earth apparently shows up. And this is all leading up to a storyline in Countdown, the sequel to 52, which nobody likes.
I wrote in my notes for this bit, Donna Troy is Schrodinger's woman. I never know if she's alive or not.
Right. That's absolutely it, yeah.
Why do we keep trying to fix Donna Troy is what I want to know. Why can't we just like shrug our shoulders and have her be there?
Donna Troy is a character who exists by accident, and that's baffling to everyone who tries to write her, that she was based on this weird Robert Conagher young Diana story, that she was exported to the Teen Titans.
No, I know why.
Yeah.
I know her origin. I'm just saying, why do we keep having to try to fix her?
No, as a hot girl writer, you must be aware of like how much better it is to just be like, let's just play it as it is, you know?
Yeah.
Let's not try to massage this. Let's just do it.
Let's do something new with her rather than trying to fix what her story is.
Yeah.
What would you do with Donna Troy, Jadzia?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't try to fix her. Number one, give her something fun to do. Look, she is interesting because more than Diana, she is ostensibly an Amazon, but has really adopted American culture. So she is the American Wonder Woman in a way Diana can never be. And that is a really interesting idea that I think is never played with enough. In that she feels more at home in America than she does in Themyscira. And what does that mean for her?
Yes, I definitely agree, especially because she's died and come back so much, and it's usually the non-Themyscirian heroes that support her and build her back up after these repeated deaths.
Right.
I would love to see maybe some tie into Greek mythology about the death and rebirth aspect. Maybe that's something that you could have as a mild explanation or a thematic explanation of the thing. But what's really most interesting is that she's like just a white woman that's shopping. Like, that's who she is.
Yeah.
And she's also a Wonder Woman-esque superhero. She's maybe more closely related to a Supergirl than she is to a Wonder Woman.
Right.
I'd love to see those characters interact.
Quite notably, Donna Troy has never been Wonder Woman's sidekick. She was introduced as her own character as a Teen Titan.
Yeah.
Her role is as this team player.
Yeah. Yeah. She's not necessarily a solo book girl.
Yeah, you can either do her rediscovering her connection to Themyscira and the Amazons and like making that more of a part of her life, or going to other way and being like, I am a hero outside of that, and Amazon concerns are not my concerns. I am finding a place without them.
I would love to see her as like a mentor on a Teen Titans type team.
Oh, she's been doing that since like the Wolfman years, really. She's kind of been, when not second to Dick, the team leader in his absence. She's kind of the Riker figure.
Yeah. Let's let her put together her own Teen Titans team, though, because she has that capability. She's been doing it. That would be really exciting to see.
The weird thing about the Titans now is that they're all like adults, right?
Yeah.
And that's a weird thing.
They're the Justice League.
Yeah.
Like Wally has 3 kids.
It's true. Not an exaggeration.
They're all in their 30s.
Wally has 3 kids. Barry, still not married.
Incredible Barry Allen.
Barry Allen will never marry. His wife comes from the future. How can he?
Yeah.
Like, let's have an antinatalist superhero. Why not? Like,
oh, man.
Antinatalism is funny to me. I'm sorry if that's anyone's personal philosophy. I just think it's hilarious.
Galaxy is never going to marry. I'll tell you that right now.
Great. Fantastic.
I'm never going to have the marriage of Galaxy and Cat because I'm tired of queer characters getting married off.
Yes.
Never
no,
gonna
I
happen.
agree. Because also, all too often, I remember watching 6 Feet Under. As soon as you marry off your gay characters, the entire story about them as human beings becomes about them being married, and it's very annoying.
Yeah, Elisa Yo had a wedding story before she had any other story.
Come on.
Any other thing.
Yeah.
It's no good. Like, that's the first thing people want to do is marry off the gays because we can't kill them anymore. So we have to marry them off. Galaxy is never going to get married. You can quote me on that.
All right.
I will hold you to this.
Unmarried with Cat forever, as long as I have any say in it.
All right. I can accept this. The structure of this show demands we identify our favorite scene in this. For me, it's Vic and Renee at the park, and then at the parking garage, setting up this heist. I think that's a wonderful character moment that breathes a lot into their relationship, and that's the stuff I'm here for.
Hell yeah.
What about you?
Okay, honestly, it's Renee saying that's a superwoman, or that's a Batwoman, hot damn. It's just, that's how Renee would react, and it's completely in character, and just that whole moment of spontaneously falling in love with a beautiful woman, it's relatable.
Very much so, yeah. Batwoman's introduction, coming in, high heels, kicking a monster in the face. Perfect.
We love it.
This is the point where we go to the Blackboard to talk about a particular niche observation about this issue and how it connects to the rest of the DC universe going into both the past and the future. Before we actually get into this issue, I want to follow up on something I brought up from last issue. Last issue, we see Vic hanging out outside of costume for the first time in the series at a lesbian bar. And we see him wearing this HD baseball cap. We could not figure out what it stood for. So I spent a week tracking down the original artist, Sean Mole, eventually got a hold of him on Instagram. And what he told me was that this cap was drawn in pencils as a Harley Davidson baseball cap. But the inks and then the colors distorted it to the point where it was unrecognizable. He put it in as a fun Easter egg because he's a big Harley Davidson fan. Personally, I think it's in character because every issue of The Question by Denny O'Neil ended with a book recommendation from Denny O'Neil. And one of his favorites was Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. So I like to see that as kind of an unintentional Easter egg. What about you?
So my thing, I'm just genuinely interested in the logistics of storing stuff from a superhero career that you are no longer pursuing, like Ralph Dibny does. Like, is there a special storage facility you go to store discrete objects that you need to have saved, like the ones that he has here? Or is he just at like the same personal storage that everybody uses? I have questions. Are there specific services or like specific flags in listings for storage centers that give you the sense that they'll be under high security and they're not going to look at what you have. I'm curious.
And are they all in Opal City, if that's the case?
Yeah. Opal City just has this no questions asked, superhero friendly.
Yeah, they're the Switzerland of America.
Exactly. There's no, Opal City is such a peaceful place. It's like kind of the best city to live in the DC universe. It kind of makes sense to store them there as opposed to a place like Metropolis, which is getting alien invaded all the time, or Gotham, which is getting blown up all the time.
That makes sense. That does make sense. Where it's just like, here's a better chance of your stuff not getting exploded.
Right.
So you might as well store it there.
If you don't have a Bat Cave, if you don't have a Fortress of Solitude, you go to Opal City Storage.
Bruce should really corner the market on this, honestly.
Yeah.
On superhero retirement storage.
Yeah.
Where he can make a lot of money as a tertiary revenue stream, you know?
The thing is, retirement, the concept of retirement is so contrary to Batman's entire ethos.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Okay, help me out here, Jaffe, because I always thought he was a Central City guy.
Who? Ralph? Yes, he was in Central. He is a Central City
Why
guy.
is the storage in Opal?
The fact that Opal City is being used here is weird.
Okay.
You would think he would do Central City,
As
but
long
no.
as we
This is a strange choice, but I think it's intentionally outside of his, like, where he hangs out, so he doesn't have to look at it.
Why is it not at Waymore, Nebraska?
Yeah, it could be in, like, Blue Valley.
It's just like Waymore, Nebraska feels more like a wade pole than Opal City. It's so strange.
Yeah, you're right. But this is where we are. I don't know why the Opal City reference. Maybe it's a Jeff Johns thing, because I know the Cult of Connor story specifically is a Jeff Johns thing, because that's what he's doing with Wonder Girl and Superboy from Teen Titans. And Jeff Johns is close friends with James Robinson.
Right.
And James Robinson's pet city is Opal City, so that might be the connection.
And that's probably it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, the other thing I want to talk about is queer romance in the DC universe. That's why we have Jadzia here. This is kind of where...
This is my thing.
Yeah, kind of where queer romance starts, unless you count John Byrne doing stuff with Maggie Sawyer.
I don't.
No. It's amazing to read those.
Should we?
I mean, we could. Like, he's doing the best with what he can, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to look at it through that lens. But yeah, this is like the first time explicitly that we have queer romance. I love that Dare Not Speak Its Name can finally speak its name in the year 2006.
It dareth.
I dare.
Where does this story go from here? We've talked about the fact that Kate and Renee are a terrible couple for each other from the very beginning. What's kind of the most interesting thing about this relationship is that they're bitter exes who it's very much signposted to you that it will be a bad idea if they ever hook up again. But of course they will.
Yeah.
Yes, they will.
It's just, there's something so gay about longing. Longing for something you shouldn't have at all.
Also, they're very beautiful women. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They're both they're drawn as gorgeous women. Of course, they're going to fall for each other again and again and again.
Right.
Just Kate Kane, like, seriously hypnotized me in this issue reading it, you know? I was also flabbergasted. I was also saying, that's a Batwoman, hot damn.
That's a Batwoman!
Yeah, that is the gayest line of dialogue that a straight man could write, I think.
Yeah.
Rucka.
Yeah. Greg Rucka has always said some things about how he enjoys writing women a lot more than he enjoys writing men. And you can kind of see it in books like this, where that's just what he's doing.
Yeah, you can see how much he likes writing Montoya because he also has all of the narration in her personal narrative voice. You can see like how much it reminds me a little bit of Utena. Have you guys seen Shoujo Kakame Utena, Revolutionary Girl Utena, the anime?
Yeah.
I have.
Okay. It reminds me a little bit about that. The person who ended up directing that show, he always said that he didn't like Usagi and Mamoru in Sailor Moon when he was director on there because a male-female romance just tends to overshadow all the rest of the plot. So he really just wanted to write a romance between two women because then also the entire focus of the show wouldn't be about the romance. It would be about everything else in these women's lives. And here you can see, like, there's this cool romantic tension that we certainly do love. And I would read a book that was just completely about the melodramatic and horribly toxic romance between these two characters.
Oh my god.
Yeah, although let me to ask you, Gita, what's the one thing in Utena people still talk about?
It's true. It's true. It's true.
It's not about queer or heteronormative romance. It's just romance.
But it's so different from Damien and Serena or Usagi and Mamoru, depending on what names you use, where their love is just about the pure loving pureness of it all, where Utena and Anthe have to like learn how to be good people in order to love each other right.
That's true. That is what makes it the queer romance of anime. I don't think there's a better one. I don't think there's a more prominent one.
I don't think there's one that is any more influential than that. Like, you can see it reverberate, that specific relationship reverberate throughout the rest of the shoujo genre.
Absolutely.
Like, completely changing things.
That show becomes Steven Universe. It's not restricted to anime.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm 100% sure that there are a lot of queer people that watch that show and have gone on to make a lot of different media and other genres across the world. Because it was one of the first times that I saw any representation for women loving women at anywhere at all.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, it's time to go on to asking the questions. This is one of my favorite segments where we go to questions submitted to us at 52mailbag@gmail.com, where you ask us your questions about 52, about comics, about our wild opinions. And I pick a couple of them and we address them together here. We got this question right before issue 7, but I've been saving it until we could have Jadzia on the show. This is from Christian, who asks, we know the Batcat Gala theme from Batman Returns is Face to Face by Susie and the Banshees. What would Kate and Renee's gala song have been circa 2006 from week 7? Loving the show. Love 52.
Oh, I have so many. Oh,
yeah.
This was so good.
Yeah, I've made a top 5 myself, but I want to hear yours first.
Oh, okay. All right. Top 5.
You know, maybe I should go first because I'll go first. Here's my top 5. In preparing for this question, I went through what the popular songs of 2006 were, and a few stood out to me. Number 1, I have SOS by Rihanna, which literally includes the line, I'm the question, and you're, of course, the answer.
Good choice.
Let's see. Number 4, Irreplaceable, Beyonce, came out that year. I think, nice. And a breakup anthem like that is something you gotta think about in 2006 with Kate and Renee. I've got Buttons by the Pussycat Dolls. There's a scene in issue 7 where Renee literally says, we know how to push each other's buttons, and that's what makes it so good. Number 2, I have You Know I'm No Good by Amy Winehouse. I think that one speaks for itself. And obviously my number 1 choice is Every Time We Touch by Cascada.
That's why you sent me that text message.
Yeah.
Before recording, Jaffe sent me a text that was like, in order to get ready for this episode, you should familiarize yourself with the gayest music from 2006. And I said, you mean My Chemical Romance?
And my response to that was, I mean Renee Montoya gay, not Booster Gold gay.
And to which I say, you mean My Chemical Romance?
That's fair. All right, who wants to go next?
I gotcha.
All right.
Unless Gita, you've got some that you want.
Oh, I don't have any, so okay. Please go ahead.
I was very excited. So in order for this, I feel like it's appropriate to get queer performers of these songs on top of them being very queer songs to begin with. So number 5 is the obvious choice, which is Breathe Me by Sia, which got a re-release in 2006 thanks to 6 Feet Under, and would be the obvious choice, but we have to put it in. Any song that begins with I Hurt Myself, we've got to include it in a Renee and Kate's thing.
Absolutely. No.
Number 5.
No notes.
So number 5, Breathe Me, Sia. We're obvious. We're leaving that aside now. Number 4, which is, I could not believe that one of my favorite bands, Matmos, which is, to call them an art music band is giving them a lot of credit, but I love them anyway. And they had an album in 2006 that was all songs dedicated to their gay heroes. So that's wonderful.
Oh.
So obviously, we need to choose for them, for their dance song here, Tracked for Valerie Solanas, which includes bits from her Scum Manifesto in the music, as well as sounds made from, among other things, Cow Vagina. It's an amazing song.
Incredible work.
It's a banger. It shouldn't work.
Wait, could you send this to me?
I will.
Could you just type in the chat for me? Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. You should listen to it. It is inappropriate, but in that inappropriateness, it feels right. Number 3, Indigo Girls had a not very good album come out in 2006. Not one that's widely thought of as their best, but Pendulum Swinger, which is, I think, the first or second track off it, pretty good. And it fits with these two. So that's a solid number 3.
Yeah.
You gotta have, if you're gonna do a list of songs that they dance to, Indigo Girls have to be on it. I'm contractually obligated by the lesbian continuum. I'm sorry, it just happens. Number 2, Scissor Sisters, She's My Man.
Sure.
Perfect.
Which is so good, and also has the line in the chorus, she's my man, and we got all the balls we need.
Great.
Oh, that's them all right. Yeah, that's Renee for sure.
Like, that's perfect. But my absolute number 1 song, it could not be any other, especially reading this issue and rereading issue 7, is Fistful of Love.
Every Time We Touch by Cascada.
No. Okay. Fistful of Love by Anoe and the Johnsons, which has the lyric, I feel your fists, and I know it's out of love.
Oh, damn!
You really
That's it! That's the one!
Yeah.
Thank you for getting me with that air horn, Gita.
What is the exact parameters of this ask again? It is songs they would dance to specifically, not just my songs about what I think about them when I hear this song.
Renee's gala song from when she crashes this party in issue 7.
Yeah.
I know the song didn't exist at the time, but what I hear in my head when I read that is the chorus from St. Vincent's Los Angeles. How can anybody have you? How can anybody have you and lose you? How can anybody have you and lose you and not lose their mind, too?
You know what? That's your song fic right there.
Yeah, absolutely. That really is. Song fic takes me back. Shit. I used to read so much song fic. Yeah. And then I was like, I just want to make a mixtape.
I know the words to activate Gita's sleeper programming.
You do. If I'm thinking about it cinematically, which is the only way I can think about it, the song that would play like as they see each other across the dance floor, another great one that wouldn't be played at a gala but would be just good thematically is I Bet on Losing Dogs by Mitski.
Yeah.
Which is about disappointment, which I feel like they
really both... any Mitski song would be perfect.
Yeah. Absolutely. Or I'm looking at various playlists I've made of all the songs that I listen to all the time, and this Lana Del Rey song where she says, "Goddamn man-child, fuck me so good, I almost said I love you." Even though Lana is the most heterosexual artist I could possibly imagine, there's something so appropriate about that song and these two women where they hate each other and they love each other and they just can't stop circling around each other.
Yeah. Esper, I'm going to give you more work right now. We're going to make a Spotify playlist for Kate and Renee to release along with this episode. I'll do what I can.
But also, I'm Not Okay, I Promise is also a really good song that should play whenever those two women are in the same room. So these are my suggestions. That's 3 and not 5. But you get the sense. Yeah, thank you.
They're rich. Got one more question from Joe, who says, prior to joining on for this podcast, I never really read any comic books aside from some of the Alan Moore and Frank Miller classics that everyone was interested in. And when the Nolan Batman movies came out, despite that, I am having a great time reading through these 52 issues, even though I have no idea who any of the characters are. My question is, what else could I read parallel to following 52 with the podcast? I don't want to spoil the journey, but I'm hungry for more, and it's overwhelming to go to the comic book section of Barnes & Noble with the sheer amount of stuff that's out there. I'm watching the My Adventures with Superman show on Max currently, and I really like it, so maybe something Superman related would be the way to go? What do you have in mind? What are your recs?
Galaxy the Prettiest Star and Hawkgirl.
Sure. Of course. Great books.
Yes, obviously. Read those two. I think in parallel to this, you will get the most out of reading Gotham Central in parallel to this. And that it will make this read of 52 more fulfilling. But something Superman-y. I mean, if you've never really read a Superman book before and you like the Superman cartoon on Max, which I think is lovely, then Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman is the one.
I'm going to recommend a different Superman comic.
Slay it on me.
Yeah. I know we talk a lot about 1 year later, whether it was good or not. There were some things of it that were. And one of the best stories, which ran in 1 year later, which was all running concurrently to 52, was the Superman book that ran between Superman and Action Comics, Superman Up, Up, and Away. And this book, co-written by Jeff Johns and Kurt Busiek, is just a terrific jumping on point to Superman, and contrasts really well with the journey we see Clark Kent on during 52, especially stuff like last week's issue, where he's kind of struggling with rediscovering himself as a journalist, and shows you sort of where that story is headed from his personal perspective and rebuilding himself as a hero. So if you read that and maybe Batman Face the Face, which is another good 1 year later story, I think you'll be set.
I'm going to recommend Superman Smashes the Klan.
Yeah!
Just read it!
By Jean Lewin Yang and Giraharu. That one is just a great, if you're looking for a Superman story, especially one that feels in the vibe of My Adventures with Superman Smashes the Klan is an excellent one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great one.
If you want something that's thematically similar to 52, but not about any of the characters in 52, if you would like a whole bunch of people you don't know about and want to read about them, James Robinson and Paul Smith's The Golden Age is gonna tickle that itch really well, as far as to show these characters having personal private lives and being a mess. So I recommend that too.
If you like the Grant Morrison aspects, Grant Morrison's Seven Soldiers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Seven Soldiers for a long time was my favorite comic book because it does a lot of the things that 52 does, but in a different kind of way, and in a totally different scale, like organizational way of telling a story. And a lot of the characters are just extremely fun, and all the books feel totally unique. It feels like a bunch of books written by a bunch of different people, but it's just Grant Morrison. So there you go.
The Shining Knight chapter is one of the greatest ever.
I love The Shining Knight, and I love all of the art in the Shining Knight chapters. It's so gorgeous, both the gritty LA and the beautiful eternal Camelot. It's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jadzia, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything personal you'd like to recommend to our many listeners?
Well, I don't think we've talked about it at all, but like Galaxy, the Prettiest Star is a really great book.
Oh, it sure is.
You guys should read if you haven't. It's wonderful. It involves my character that I created with Vash Taylor, which is Galaxy, who is a superhero in the DC universe, and you can see her a superhero in the Hawk Girl miniseries that tied up recently, and there's a trade coming out in June 4th, because I'm a queer author. All my books come out in June now. I've accepted that. And
that's just how it is.
That's just how it is. Galaxy is also appearing in the Bad Dream, A Dreamer's Story graphic novel that Nicole Maines wrote, and it is excellent.
Oh, yeah.
So everyone should pick that up when it comes out. It's really wild to see someone... I've never had someone take a character I've created and done something with them before, so it was fun to see that, and to see someone so talented as Nicole do that and do such a great job was really great. I was very nervous, but I had no reason.
I would say Galaxy, the Prettiest Star is the comic that I have bought the second most number of times for other people as gifts. Yeah, I have bought many copies of this book because I want everyone I know to read it. Number one was Superman for All Seasons, but that was before I found out Jeff Loeb was Jeff Loeb. So you're catching up there.
Good.
Gosh, I think that you should read everything Jadzia writes, personally.
Absolutely.
Just do it.
Do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Well, we've taken up enough of Jadzia time. I have just one more question for you, Gita.
Okay, I'm listening.
That question is, are you ready?
Actually, can you give me like 5 more seconds? I'm just like running a little bit late. I just have to heat up my coffee.
God, that's every single episode. I'm running a little late. Gotta make my coffee.
Because I always remember I need coffee like 1 minute before our recording time. 52 Pickup is an Aftermath production created by Gita Jackson and Alex Jaffe and edited by Esper Quim with original music by John Ahrens. The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the show's personalities and do not reflect those of DC Entertainment or Warner Brothers. Please rate and review our show wherever you can and send your questions and comments to 52mailbag@gmail.com. Never stop reading comics.